And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Sunday, March 2nd. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down a 6-game main slate tonight. We start at 6 o'clock with 2 games. We get another one at 7, another one at 8, and then 2 more at 9:30. Hell of a Sunday night slate for everybody. And not exactly a lot of good basketball on this one either. Knicks Heat, nah. Raptors Magic, nah. Thunder Spurs, could have been if Wemby were around. Pels Jazz, that doesn't get much worse than that. Clippers Lakers are short-handed. And then Wolves Suns. But unfortunately, the Suns are awful at basketball. So, what I need you guys to do is hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. I'm going to get really bright right now. I got to change my lighting. Boom. Now let it fix itself. Perfect. We in. How's the weekend, everybody? You guys having fun? Good weekend so far? Mine's been great. No complaints. Ready to break this one down, though. I don't love these. It's really weird. So the first 2 games of the slate, 95 and 95 pace. The next 2 games of the slate, 100 and 100. The next 2 games, 98 and 98. That's so weird. They're all packed together in the exact same little bunch. Who saw that one coming? Not me. Not me. All right, let me get signed into OddsShopper. Let me finish running. All right, FanDuel contenders and DraftKings contenders are both done. So let's refresh that. And then we can break down these games and get the hell out of here. Sounds good to me. And don't forget, we got another show coming up later today. You will get a live before lock. You don't want to miss that. We got a lot of news to wait on. And those guys will break it down for you perfectly tonight. Okay. We've got DraftKings refreshed. We're refreshing FanDuel. Data Hub is grabbed. Ownership is ran. I think we're in for this, baby. All right. Double updates in. Let's get it started. First game up. Not good. Not good. New York Knicks, 6.5 point favorites in Miami, 223 total. As I said, 95 pace. This is essentially tied with Toronto and Orlando for lowest pace. Massive pace down spot for the Knicks. Miami, one of the slowest teams. And as you can see on the screen, we're just not getting much, if anything, of ownership to the New York Knicks. 9% to Jalen Brunson, 3% to Josh Hart, 4% to Karl Anthony Towns. There's nothing here. Josh Hart's probable. Mitchell Robinson's probable. We don't have any Q tags. It's just a bad environment. Now, do I think that the New York Knicks are under-owned in this spot? Absolutely. I think Josh Hart at 7,700, small forward, power forward eligible, a fantasy point per minute guy. I think he's quite a bit under-owned at 3%. I'm kind of used to this in the mornings now. I'm usually a little bit more optimistic to Knicks in the morning. But I got him 14% optimal, 31% boom. We're talking needing 46 fantasy points. He ranks 16th for me. On a 6-game slate, if you're ranked 16th, you better be a lot more than 3% owned. So I think Josh Hart might be my preferred option here for the Knicks. His rebounding is definitely going to take a bit of a haircut now that we have Mitchell Robinson here too. Does Josh Hart have a rebound prop? My guess is that it's a lot lower than the 10 that I have. Josh Hart, 9.5, juice to the under. Yeah. So I think the Mitchell Robinson thing probably needs me to bring down his rebounding prop a little bit, but even still, I find him to be, look, the MPE, the price tag, the lack of ownership, that all stands out. Everybody else kind of seems like a 5%er. I mean, I have Bridges, Anunoby, and Brunson all with the exact same optimal rate. Now, Brunson is the better play. Anunoby is better than Bridges. Brunson's boom score is a lot more appealing than Bridges, but for a 6-game slate, and I don't manually touch anything for optimal or boom or anything like that. 6-game slate, Anunoby, Brunson, and Bridges all rank in the same 3 spots: 35, 36, 37. That's hard to do. That's really hard to do. And then Towns, I'll never have a problem going to someone like Karl Anthony Towns at 9,500. I don't love the matchup for him, but it's Towns. Like, you can do it. He also is going to look worse the more they're going to play him alongside Mitchell Robinson. So keep that in mind. Every minute that Karl Anthony Towns plays while Mitchell Robinson's on the floor, Karl Anthony Towns' rates should be expected to go down. So be aware of that for however they're stretching out Towns, or however they're stretching out Robinson right now. There's just not that much to like here on this Knicks side. Do you guys like anything from New York? I just don't see it. It's just the pace of this game is rough. That's really the problematic piece here. Any bets out there on the Knicks side? Okay, we've got a 3 OddsShopper rating, under 21.5 PRA on OG Anunoby, and a 2 OddsShopper rating, under 26.5 points on Jalen Brunson. I mean, if you're available to take it, I would pretty much snap take that right now, given where we've been historically on points props on DraftKings. But I would hit both of those pretty quickly. All right. On the opposite side, we get the Miami Heat. A team that is really just awful to talk about right now. So Jaime Jaquez is doubtful. He sprained his ankle last time out. Andrew Wiggins is doubtful. He also has a sprained ankle. Good luck figuring out the rotation. We've got 20% ownership coming into Tyler Hero. We've got 20% ownership coming into Bam Adebayo. We've got 25 coming into Khalil Ware. 15 to Alec Burks. 10 more to Davion Mitchell. 5 apiece to Duncan Robinson and Haywood Highsmith. Okay. So let's talk Davion Mitchell right now. He seems pretty well locked in at 34 minutes a night or more, potentially. 4,400, point guard, shooting guard eligible. Is he good? No, not at all. In fact, what's he averaging for the Heat? All right, Davion Mitchell on for Miami, 0.67 fantasy points per minute. So I got him at 0.7. I like him today as a value option on a 6-gamer. I do. I think 9% might be a little bit too low for what this slate looks like. I think Bam is pretty much properly owned at 20%. 7,800. That power forward eligibility is just massive for flexibility for you. I have him 13% optimal, 32% chance of 46 fantasy points. When's the last time we saw Bam go for 46? Where you hiding, Bam? Ooh, it's been a minute. February 12th, my birthday, oddly enough. Came close last time out at 42. But no, I'm happy to get to Bam here at 7,800. The Khalil Ware ownership is a little surprising to me. I'm not entirely sure why he's going to be pulling that much ownership. 25% feels like a lot. I only went 27 minutes. He's 5,400. Now, the per minute rates are great. He's the best point per dollar play on Miami. But he's center only, and that is just so limiting because everybody's got centers. Everybody's got centers. And at 5,400, I don't know how much... Like, yeah, he looks fine. 25% chance of 35 fantasy points. How's he been scoring? I guess that'll probably... Not that I like trend data, but it will make me feel better about what I'm saying. And I could be a minute light or so as well. So we're looking for 35 at a where. Last did it on the 23rd. He had 36. He had 38 on the 7th. He had 37 on the 4th. So he's just been sneaking into that range now that he hasn't been getting those big old minutes. Yeah, to me, Ware is a little tiny bit overowned. Dangerous Dave, Khalil Ware has been starting for over a month alongside Bam. So, yeah. And not only was it 2 games ago and last game, it's been 4 weeks. He's started 15 games alongside of him in a row. So I think we can go ahead and assume that he's going to keep doing that. Anyway, I think that ownership is too high. Like, I would rather get to Bam before Ware. I'd rather get to Davion Mitchell before Ware. I'd rather get to Tyler Hero before Ware at similar ownership. Hero 8,400. Point guard only. 5x his salary. 1.15 fantasy points per minute. You're looking for basically 50 out of Hero. I'm cool with that. I think Duncan Robinson and Haywood Highsmith are both underowned. If Duncan Robinson's 4 and Highsmith's 5, why are these other guys so much more owned? I don't see it. I'm not saying that you should have a ton of them, but like Duncan Robinson's a 0.8 fantasy point per minute dude. That's not that bad. You're looking for 32 fantasy points out of him. He can make 10 threes. I obviously don't think that he's going to make 10 threes, but you know what I mean. You get great positionality, shooting guard and small forward. He should be like 10% owned. So should Haywood Highsmith. And then Alec Burks, 3,200, 15% owned. Maybe? You know, we saw Rozier play again last time out. I think Larson probably gets a couple of minutes. That feels a little high for Alec Burks. But, you know, we might just play 30 minutes because we can't trust absolutely anything for this team. I'm always very apprehensive of the bench guys for Miami as of right now. So, like, if Burks is getting 15% ownership and he's not in a starting lineup, I can't be confident that he's the dude. If I'm ranking Miami, it's Bam 1, Davion Mitchell 2. God damn, I said that out loud. Tyler Hero 3. We'll go Haywood Highsmith 4, Ware 5, Burks 6. I also want to bump up I want to change my rank formula. Yeah, I like that more. Oh yeah, that makes way more sense. All right, I got nothing else here for Miami. So let's take a peek and see if we have any bets on the Heat side. And we do. And based on the way that I see this ownership, under 12.5 points for Khalil Ware, 3 OddsShopper rating, 2.9% EV. That one's out there on BetMGM right now, if that's a direction you guys want to go. Only one that really matters right now. All right, folks, we'll keep it moving. Hit that like button. Let's get to the other shit game of the day. Toronto Raptors, 7-point dogs in Orlando. 210.5 total. This is 10 points lower than any other game. Toronto, massive pace down spot. They lose 3 possessions below their average. There is no ownership coming into this Raptors team right now. 13% is coming into Grady Dick. Otherwise, it's 3 or less. They are the second. Oh, actually, they're the third lowest owned team behind the Clippers and the Knicks, who we just talked about. Raptors have no Ochai Agbaji for this one. I think that makes Grady Dick pretty clearly the best option you can get to from Toronto. And that's why he's getting that ownership. I went 30 minutes, 4,200 shooting guard only. He's not a good per minute guy, 0.71 fantasy points per minute. But he is a 5x value. And on a 6-gamer, that's kind of what you need. So I'm not surprised to see him get that ownership. I think he deserves it. I would argue Scotty Barnes is like a hair under-owned. But you're paying up to be a little bit contrarian there. 1.15 fantasy points per minute. About 4.9x his salary. 9% optimal, 2% ownership. Same for Barrett to a degree. But, I have Barnes 38th. I have Barrett 49th. Toronto just doesn't look good. And that's not surprising. If you're the underdog in a game with a 210 total, with the slowest pace, and you're on the road, like, unless you have hemorrhaged guys in your rotation and no one's priced correctly, this isn't the spot to go to. To me, I think it's pretty clear that Toronto is the worst team that you could roster today, and I don't have anything else to add about them. Now, maybe, just maybe, we have a bet that looks good for the Raptors. Maybe we'll get lucky. Kinda. Two OddsShopper ratings, both with very significant historical ROI. So we've got Jakob Poeltl, under 8.5 rebounds, 6% historical ROI. It's a 2 OddsShopper rating on FanDuel. And then Scotty Barnes, under PRA, 31.5 is the number. 7.5 historical ROI, 2 OddsShopper rating, 2 EV. That one's out there on BetMGM. So 2 decent plays there for those games. As we move it on to Orlando. Now, Orlando is in a very different spot. We're going to have a big conversation here. So let's dip into this. Nothing to worry about on the Orlando injury front. No Suggs, which we know. 30% ownership to Paolo, 25 to Franz. Can you guys see how different my data is? I have Franz 3rd overall. I have Paolo Banchero 35th. I have Franz twice as optimal. I got Franz at 37 boom compared to Paolo's 26. I think Franz looks way better. Both positionally, both rate, ownership, all of it. I don't even think it's close based on my current ranks. So my assumption is that I have some rates that I need to tweak. Let's take a look at their points props for today. Franz is at 25.5, juice to the under. I have 26. Paolo's at 24.5, even money. I'm at 22. Now, I took a deep dive through Orlando's rates earlier this week. I'm pretty happy with where I have these guys set up. So I'm Team Franz over Team Paolo if they're going to be at neutral ownership today. I think small forward is just an inherently harder position to fill. And I think that prioritizes Franz Wagner in a way that is not coming out in our ownership right now. Now, it's not to say that I don't think Paolo looks okay, but to me, he's like a 15% owned guy. Whereas I think Franz is the 25 to 30 that he's getting. The problem is I don't want anything else from Orlando. Maybe you can make a case for a $5,300 Wendell Carter Jr. in like 5 to 10% of lineups. But to me, it's Franz is way up here. Number 3 guy on the slate for me. It's a pretty sizable step down to Paolo. And then Wendell Carter Jr. as a flyer. How are you guys looking at Paolo and Franz? How are you splitting the difference? Are you splitting the difference? How you want to treat those guys? As I go to see if there's any Orlando value. On OddsShopper. Nope. Franz under 1.5 threes. No, thank you. No, thank you. Agreed, Steven. Agreed. Craig, you are correct. Well, I mean, obviously you knew the daughter part, but yeah, Abe Lincoln's birthday as well. So thank you. And tell your daughter happy belated. Yeah, it's Team Franz for me here. I think he looks really good. I got the target score at 48. When's the last time Franz Wagner dropped 48? It's all that matters to me. February 10th and February 8th, he went for 50 in back-to-back games. Yeah, give me Franz. Give me Franz. All right, guys, hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. There's a good reason for it. You got to do this. Link in the description of this video. I think Nightbot's dropping it into chat as well. Do you want to sign up at Stokastic? Get our sims for DFS, for whichever sport you're looking for. I assume it's basketball. You can get projections, ownership, our boom bust tool, our premium Discord, all of our simulation package to build your lineups, get positive ROI lineups into the contest that you're playing. You could do it, and it won't cost you a cent to us. You won't have to pay us anything. You just have to sign up through one of our partners, either a sportsbook or a pick'em site, whether it's Underdog, Better, Sleeper. Chalkboard just got added right now. If you're familiar with Chalkboard, well, maybe you're going to Bet365 or Caesars. Sign up through any one of those sites and follow their instructions. You'll have to make a small deposit, whatever their terms are. It's nothing crazy. They're going to give you some sort of bonus as well, whether it's bonus bets or a deposit bonus. Follow those instructions. Let us know about it. You get a month with us. So if you've been interested in what we have behind the paywall on the DFS side, you guys can come in for nothing for a month. Totally free. And maybe you don't want the DFS package. We have the exact same offer for OddsShopper and the Portfolio EV tool. The thing that I've been sharing, looking for bets for each one of these games. You can get that for free for a month as well. And you could stack these bad boys up too. It's not a one and done. If you've never signed up at any of the pick'em sites before and you want to do that, you're in a legal pick'em state, you could sign up for Sleeper and Better and Underdog, and you could hit that whole line. Prize Picks. If you've never signed up for any of them, that's month and month and month and month, if that's what you want to do. So you can stack those all together. So come on in, guys. Click those links. Sign up at Stokastic. The Oklahoma City Thunder are 13.5-point favorites in San Antonio, 235 total. Highest total of the slate, second highest pace. Oklahoma City is the second most owned team today. And there's a reason for that. They are missing a couple guys. Chet Holmgren out with the ankle sprain, which killed me on Friday. Isaiah Joe is out with lower back soreness. AJ Mitchell still out. So we are getting 30% ownership to Jalen Williams without the Y, 25 more for Cason Wallace, 20 more for Aaron Wiggins and Alex Caruso, another 15 for Isaiah Hartenstein, and then just under 10 on Lou Dort and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, to me, Jalen Williams is pretty clearly the best option for OKC. But boy, oh boy, is 8% owned Shai Gilgeous-Alexander under-owned here. Come on, man. Who else are we going to play today? I get it. We have LeBron and Luka out there. Maybe like $10,500 Shea against a terrible San Antonio Spurs team. He scored, like, you don't need much. 59 isn't crazy to me on this slate. When's the last time Shea dropped 59? Yesterday? 2 days ago? Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. 3 days ago. Now, hold on. That's bad math. The 24th, 64.5. The 21st. No, the 23rd, 70. Even 57 up against Miami on my birthday would have been close enough. I love Shea here at 8%. He's underowned for his role for this matchup, because we got to remember, this San Antonio team, they're not the same team without Wemby. They're not even in the ballpark of the same team. And we can prove that right here. So the San Antonio Spurs. Getting there. It's getting there. What do you guys want to do with Shea? Because Jalen Williams is getting 30% ownership and Shea's getting 10. I think they should be basically equal. You want to tell me it should be like 20 and like 25 and 20? I could be okay with that. All right, so the Spurs have given up 116 points per 100 possessions, no matter who is on the floor. 116. If you guarantee that Victor Wembanyama is not on the floor, I wonder how many points per possession they give up. What will that number be? It is 120.5. Good for 9th percentile. That's across 2,500 possessions. This defense is awful. Shea is going to be able to do whatever he wants. I really like him as a pay up to be contrarian option. Dort, on the other hand, I don't really see anything wrong with his current ownership. That seems about right. I think Hartenstein is properly owned, but closer to like a hair under owned at 14%, just given the fact that there's no Chet. I think Cason Wallace makes sense as a guy that's getting 25% ownership, 4,100, point guard, shooting guard eligible, 5.3x his salary. But he's a bad per minute guy, or at least not a great per minute guy. If that was 20% ownership, I'd feel a little bit better. Just a twinge over own, nothing too crazy. Why is Caruso 20% owned? Like, sure, there's some value there. He's 4,300. He's shooting guard, small forward eligible. He's a good per minute guy at a fantasy point per minute. Maybe he plays a little bit more than I think he does, but that feels a little high. Wiggins, I feel a little bit better with because he's a similar per minute guy to Caruso, but has been playing more minutes than Alex has been. So I don't mind the Wiggins ownership all that much. That seems about right. Alex Caruso feels a little over-owned. But I think Hartenstein and Shea are both under-owned. If I'm ranking OKC, it's Jalen Williams, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, it's Isaiah Hartenstein, it's Cason Wallace, and then as far as I'm concerned, you guys can pick between the rest of them. I can go any way you guys want to go. I see it. All right, let's look at San Antonio. Spurs. Well, they're the Spurs. We don't have an injury report for them because they played yesterday. So we're kind of winging it on the off chance that somebody's in or out. 10% ownership coming into De'Aaron Fox. Single-digit ownership coming into everybody else. It's clearly a terrible matchup defensively. They're 13-point underdogs, which isn't helpful. I would argue Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson are both a little under-owned. Chris Paul, not somebody that I really want to get to. I would argue that even at 8%, he might be a hair over-owned. I know Castle had a big day yesterday. Little nervous to go that direction today, but he's not getting any ownership, so he's fine as a GPP pivot. But if I'm ranking San Antonio, it's actually Keldon Johnson 1, De'Aaron Fox 2, Devin Vassell 3. I'm surprised Keldon Johnson's not getting a little bit more love here. Sure, the matchup's not what we're looking for, but we did get 29 minutes out of Keldon Johnson 2 games ago, 30 out of him yesterday. He played 30 on the 21st. That's 3 out of his last 5 games at 29 minutes. Is that not kind of interesting today? Feels like a little bit more interesting than 8% owned. Similar story for Castle, just doesn't have the third game, but 30 minutes last 2 games. If that's ramping up, I went 28. It's all right. So there's some sneaky ownership here for San Antonio, but these guys are mostly just owned where they should be. It is a tough spot. You guys like anything specific for San Antonio? See if we have any Spurs bets. 2 OddsShopper rating under 16.5 points on Devin Vassell. That's another, 12% historical ROI option. Looks like you want to snap that one up as fast as you can. We don't have anything else other than a 1 OddsShopper rating on De'Aaron Fox. I would have 0 Biyombo. To me, completely unplayable. Full stop, completely unrosterable. Can't play Biyombo at all. All right, go to game number 4. New Orleans Pelicans. 6.5 point favorites in Utah. 231 total. Pels, no Brandon Boston. Otherwise, they are healthy for what they've been. And we're getting, 15% ownership to CJ, 15% ownership to Zion, 15% ownership to Yves Missi, 10 to Kelly O, little under 10 for Trey Murphy. Boy, oh boy, do I want Zion Williamson here. Whew. 8,700, small forward, power forward eligible. Walker Kessler's not playing in the other side. And Zion's unstoppable. I got him 20% optimal, 38% chance of 51 fantasy points. He's my number 2 play of the day. Love, love, love Zion here. I have no idea why he's not even getting more love. Minutes have started to ramp up as well. Last time out, his last game, he dropped 63 on Phoenix. His target score is 51. He had 59 2 weeks ago against Sacramento. He hit 53 against Sacramento 2 games before that. Yeah. Give me all the Zion I can get. Please. Now, these other guys, I'm not sure I see it. Like, CJ, 13% owned. He's probably my second favorite Pelican, but I don't think he looks anywhere near as good as Zion. He's like properly owned-ish. 10% owned Kelly Olynyk, properly owned-ish. Yves Missi at 15, way too high for me. Way too high. 4,800 center only. Like, yeah, the value's there, but I don't know. Not a priority. Trey Murphy, 8K. 7% owned. I got him 8% optimal. Priority? No. Last guy in? Sure. To me, there is a priority from the New Orleans Pelicans, and it's unequivocally Zion Williamson. What do you guys want to do with Zion? Is that your cup of tea? Should be. He good. He's good. Pelicans bets. Ooh, we got a 4 out there. Under 8.5 rebounds. Yves Missi. It's 4 OddsShopper rating. 3.4% EV to bet MGM. Also, we need to talk about schedule for the rest of the day. I don't want to miss the show that we have. So at 5 p.m. later tonight, EMAC, Bellman, NBA Live before lock heading into this 6-game slate. So you don't want to miss it, guys. That's what we got going on this Sunday. No more football, you know? It's all NBA these weekend days. Moral of the story is play all the Zion Williamson you can. Also, Kelly Olynyk, under 6.5 rebounds, 2 OddsShopper rating, sitting out there on DraftKings. Then we go to Utah. This is not fun to talk about, but it's never fun to talk about. These guys are always perpetually, aggressively not playing. Jordan Clarkson, out. John Collins, out. Walker Kessler, out. Lauri Markkanen, out. Colin Sexton, out. That's arguably their starting 5. So that is creating the most owned team on today's slate, the most optimal team on today's slate, the highest boom on today's slate, everything. 40% ownership to Keontae George, 35 to Isaiah Collier, 55 to Kyle Filipowski, 30 more for Bryce Sensabaugh, 25 more for Svi Mykhailiuk, 13 for Johnny Juzang, and we're still getting around 10 for Kenyon Martin Jr. I completely understand it. Now, to me, Keontae George is the number 1 play here. 6,600, point guard only, the 1.15 fantasy point per minute guy in this spot. The Pelicans stink. He ranks 6th for me. I'm not surprised to see the ownership. 18% optimal, 35% chance of 41 fantasy points. Keontae George would be my first pick. However, Isaiah Collier is hot on his heels. 6K, point guard only, slightly worse fantasy point per minute guy, but very comparable per dollar dude today. Basically the same optimal, basically the same boom, basically the same ownership. I like them both. One's ranked 6th, the other one's ranked 8th. We got 51 fantasy points out of Keontae George 4 games ago. That's 10 more than we would need here. So I have no issue getting George, no issue getting Collier. You're probably playing 3 or 4 guys from Utah in cash games. $5,200 Filipowski looks good. You know, 5.8x value. He's a fantasy point per minute guy. I got him ranked 12th. It's just because he's a center. But him being 50% owned is not surprising at all. We have 5 guys from Utah ranked in the top 13 in Keontae George, Isaiah Collier, Svi Mykhailiuk, Kyle Filipowski, and Bryce Sensabaugh. And I don't disagree with any of that. Svi looks exceptional, 19% optimal, 26% chance of 26 fantasy points. He's 3,600 shooting guard, small forward eligible. Incredible value there. 6x value, in fact, as a fantasy point per minute guy. Johnny Juzang looks like a decent value at 3,800 with similar value and flexibility. Pulling a little bit less ownership if you want to go that way. Sensabaugh is a fantasy point per minute guy. I got him in for 24 minutes. Small forward, power forward, 4,300. He ranks 13th, 17% optimal, 27% chance of 30 fantasy points. It's really hard to not get to Utah. They're the most owned team for the reason they're clearly multiple priority cash game options coming from the Jazz. I don't know how you dodge most of this. You're going to have probably 2 or 3 Jazz guys in everything you build. Number 1 optimal, number 1 boom. I got nothing else to add here for the Jazz. You're basically playing the entire team heavily. Do we have any bets? We have under 5.5 rebounds for Kenyon Martin Jr., 4 OddsShopper rating, 3.5 EV on Fanatics, and then a 2 OddsShopper rating under 13.5 points for Isaiah Collier at BetMGM. All right, 2 more to go. Game number 5. Clippers, Lakers. We just saw this one, obviously. Clippers are 1.5 point favorites at the Lakers, their former home. 220 total. This one's actually not too bad on the Clippers side. Norm Powell is probable, so everybody's in. And because Norm Powell is probable, the Clippers are the least owned team on the slate at 15% total. Now, we have 5% to Zubats, 4 to Powell, 4 to Leonard. I think Ivica Zubats is pretty significantly underowned here at 7,400. One, the Lakers are incredibly shorthanded. And two, I don't care about Jackson Hayes when it comes to Zoo. So if he's 5% owned, I have him 16% optimal and a 40% chance of 44 fantasy points. He had 49 2 days ago against the Lakers. He had 47 3 games ago, 51 5 games ago. So he's hit this target score easily 3 out of his last 5 games. And if we want to get even more technical, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 out of his last 9. I think he's one of the best dudes you can get to, especially at that ownership. I got him ranked 7th. If he maintains sub 10% ownership, I think that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is your number one contrarian option of the day. He'd be the guy that I'd want to get to the most over anybody else. I think Harden's decent as a contrarian option. Norm Powell scares me because of coming back from the injury, but I think he's certainly an interesting contrarian option. Kawhi Leonard is 4% owned, 10% optimal. You need 45. He looks like an interesting contrarian option. While the Clippers may be wildly underowned, I think they deserve a little bit more. I have higher optimal and boom rates on the Clippers than I do on the Magic. And Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner are both getting 30% ownership. So, I don't know about you guys, but as of right now, I'm looking at the Clippers kind of sneaky. They're not getting paid attention to as much as they should, especially in this matchup. But what you really want is right here. 12 OddsShopper rating. It's only been up for less than a minute. Under 26.5 PRA on Norm Powell on Onyx odds. You can also get that same line on DraftKings. There's positive EV on Fanatics for it as well. Great play. Go out of your way to get it. Also, under 3.5 assists for Chris Dunn. It's plus 110 on DraftKings. Positive historical ROI. 8 OddsShopper rating. 5.4% EV. These are the 2 best plays we've seen so far through this show. Now we got to get to the Lakers. And this is basically impossible for us today. I'm not going to dig into this one too much. Luka Doncic is questionable. LeBron James is questionable. Rui Hachimura is already out. Jordan Goodwin is doubtful. Austin Reeves is doubtful. Now, right now, I've got LeBron ranked 1st if he's in. I've got Luka ranked 5th if he's in. They both look like they should be massively owned. Also puts that ownership for Shea into perspective. And then I'm expecting Dorian Finney-Smith, Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, Trey Jameson at the flat 3K, maybe Dalton Connect. We're going to have a lot of value here on the Lakers, at least in my eyes, because I've got these guys way more than 10% optimal. Trey Jameson, flat 3K, played 22 minutes last time out. They're more shorthanded today than they were last time, and we still don't even know the status of LeBron or Luka. There's going to be a lot of ownership coming into the Lakers. I'm in no position to break this down right now. If one of those guys is in, if Luka and LeBron both play, I still think you should be getting 10% ownership to Dorian Finney-Smith, Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, Trey Jameson, Dalton Connect, maybe even Shake Milton. If one of LeBron or Luka are out, everything that I just said is true, and then it ramps it up by quite a bit after that. If they're both out, it gets insane. So if LeBron plays, he might be the best play of the day, ignoring pop-up value. If Luka plays, he's a top 5 play. If either one of them don't play, the other guy is probably the number 1 play. And if both of them don't play, all of the Lakers are awesome. That's the best that I can do here. There's too many moving parts to like work through all of the if this, then that. Just know that this is going to be a really good spot to be. And then we'll finish it off. Minnesota Timberwolves, equally as impossible to talk about. 1.5 point underdogs in Phoenix, taking on the Suns, 229 total. So Minnesota, Rudy Gobert is out. Anthony Edwards is questionable. And the real complicating factor here, Julius Randle is questionable. Now, right now, we're getting 20% ownership to Ant and essentially no ownership to anybody else from Minnesota. I'm not going to go too crazy here. Ant's 9K. He's shooting guard only. I got him ranked 22nd. I think 20% ownership is totally fine for Ant if he's in. But I don't know how many minutes Julius Randle's going to play, if he's in, if he's not in. His minutes will impact Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They'll impact guys like Terrence Shannon or Jalen Clark. So it's hard to dig in here too much. But if Randle is out, you can probably get 10% of DiVincenzo, 10% of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 10% of Reed, 10% of McDaniels. But if Randle's in, all these guys start to become a little gross. But Ant, very clearly, number 1 dude from Minnesota at 9K. 31% chance of 52 fantasy points. Happy to get the ownership. But that's where it gets complicated. What if Ant doesn't play? Then we're definitely looking at your Terrence Shannons and your Jalen Clarks, your Nickeil Alexander-Walkers. What if Ant and Randle don't play? So those two Q tags make up 27% of my projected minutes. It's hard to dig into Minnesota right now, but Live Before Lock will be able to help you guys out there much more than I can at 9 o'clock in the morning, Do we have any Minnesota Timberwolves bets? We have a 7 OddsShopper rating, under 7.5 rebounds on Jaden McDaniels. Even with the injury news, I probably wouldn't want to take that because of Edwards and Randle. But it's probably not, because it's such a high OddsShopper rating, I'd be willing to consider it. Maybe I'd dial back the bet size a hair just to take into account a little bit more risk. Finally, guys, hit that like button. We are closing it out. Phoenix Suns. Grayson Allen probable. Bradley Beal questionable. That seems familiar. Bradley Beal questionable, 6,800. Shooting guard, small forward eligible, 4% owned. That's higher than 3% owned Devin Booker. It's higher than 2% owned Kevin Durant. Look, these 3 guys are all under-owned. Come on, man. This is a 6-game slate. Taking on a Minnesota team that doesn't have Rudy Gobert in at the 5. You're playing Naz Reid there. That's not a good defense. Durant, Booker, and Beal all under 5% owned. All 5x salary guys. Nah, these guys are way too owned. This is a lot like the Clippers to me. The Suns and the Clippers are under-owned for GPPs. We're getting 10% ownership to Nick Richards. I think he should be 20% owned at 4,600. We're getting 20% ownership to Bol. Feels about right at 5,400. No problem there. Nothing too crazy. But Booker, Beal, Durant, they're way underowned. And it's possible Beal doesn't play and these guys look even better than what I'm talking about. What do you guys like from Phoenix here? I want to know if I'm on an island. You guys like these Suns guys as much as I like them? Like, I'm ranking these guys: Nick Richards 1, Durant 2, Booker 3, Bull 4, Bradley Beal 5. Like, Durant and Booker just 2 and 3% seems insane. These guys are playing 38 minutes a night when it's competitive. It's a 1.5 point line. It's the most competitive game. I don't know, man. I just look at this and think, I mean, this is the team that I am most over optimal versus ownership. I have Phoenix 70% optimal. They're 38% owned. For example, I have OKC 77% optimal. They're 120% owned. Miami 74% optimal, 4% more, 98% owned, 60% more ownership. Phoenix is wildly underowned. These are your pivots for GPPs today, guys. Full stop. I am going to build one lineup and one lineup only in the single lineup sim, and then I'm going to get out of here. All right? One shot, one opportunity. Sees everything I've ever wanted. Will I capture it? Will I let it slip? Alrighty, let's find which direction we're going. And thank you guys for being here. We know we're going to have to get some of this value in here. So Svi Mikhailiuk in small forward. We're going to get Yves Missi in. We're going to get Jalen Williams in. Let's see. What else can we add here? We can take another Utah value guy. I don't really want it to be Filipowski. I kind of want it to be like Nick Richards or something. So instead of Filipowski, I'm going to get... I guess I'm going to get Cason Wallace, actually. We'll pop him in at shooting guard. Now we're starting to free up some salary. So value-wise, we could take a look at point guard. Luka is interesting. I don't want Chris Paul. I guess CJ would be the answer there. Now we're at guard. We have 7,700 apiece for these final 3 spots. Guard, forward, utility. So, guard. Could be Keontae George, lots of ownership. Could be Isaiah Collier, lots of ownership. Kind of feels like Tyler Hero. Now that leaves me small forward. We can spend enough salary that it's not a problem. That's going to be Bam. Now we have 6,900 for whatever the best utility guy is, which is going to end up leaving us way too much salary. So we can pay up somewhere else pretty easily. Is it center? Because we had Yves Missi in here at 4,800. 5.6x value. I'm going to get my boy Zoo at no ownership. Leaves me 4,300 at utility. And that might have me walk back off of Bam. Highest projected guy we have left would be Bryce Sensabaugh at 4,300. Here we go. One run. I know it's going to be massive. I know it is. I just know it is. I'm not even going to look. 47.2. There was never a doubt what was going to be happening right here. What I'm actually going to do is take Sensabaugh out and Bam out. I want to see if there's a different path to go at that forward spot. Because Bam is not as cost effective. And I think I could be a little bit better there. It's the ownership that's interesting there for Bam. But if I go to Wiggins, then I have 7,100 at utility. That actually doesn't help me. So Wiggins is not as interesting. So does that mean I want to go even bigger? Can I do that? What about Paolo there? It's a very different build then. That leaves us 4K for Dorian Finney-Smith. Is it any different? Final one. This is it. This is our walking out the door lineup. What do we get here? 100 left on the table. Do it. All right. 2 positives. Right around 40%. We got it locked. We're going to call it a day. Thank you guys for being here. NBA strategy show in the books. I appreciate you guys. We're back again tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time, doing it all again. So hit that like button on your way out the door for sure. Be here for live before lock. Sign up at Stokastic. Link in the description.